We now move into the next power-packed segment of the day, an insightful conversation with an inspiring leader who has created her own path of success. Before inviting our distinguished speaker on stage, may I request the AV team to kindly play the introductory video of Ms. Vaishali Wagle.
Speaker identified. Vaishali Wagle. Codename, The Peak Shaper. Leadership Toolkit. Signature skills. Can transform Fortune 500 boardrooms into growth labs. Can turn banking tech grit into human brilliance. And can inspire leaders worldwide to reimagine careers they don't just do, but love. Operation Growth. Current operation. Guiding leaders through Zeness, her transformation firm, and shaping futures with her #1 Amazon bestseller, Scaling Peaks, and the much-loved newsletter 11/11 Tuesdays. Inspiration Effect. You may start craving clarity, resilience, and a Tuesday morning reset. Please welcome the strategist, the coach, the unstoppable agent of growth and grit, Vaishali Wagle.
I'll request Ms. Swati Jain, Chief Strategic Advisor, Arihant Capital Markets Limited, to kindly do the honor of escorting Ms. Wagle to the stage. I now request AV team to please display the digital appreciation certificate for ma'am. And for presenting the certificate of appreciation, I would like to call Dr. Sapna Advani from IBM College. Can I request you, ma'am, please come on the stage? Dr. Sapna Advani.
On behalf of Indore Management Association Women Conclave and FTS Yuva, it is my honor to appreciate Ms. Vaishali Wagle for joining us here at the Women Conclave, and in her honor, we have planted this sapling.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With this, now I hand over the session to Ms. Swati Jain. Thank you.
Thank you, Seema. If Simon Sinek is the why guy who helps you find your why, James Clear is the habits guy who helps you build your habits, then Vaishali Wagle is the peak woman I quote, who helps you scale your career peaks. From growing up in Nagpur to making a mark in New York and London, Vaishali's story is one of transformation, resilience, and empowerment. We often talk about reaching at the top, but we rarely discuss about how to reach at those peaks and sustain success once we get there. So let's explore Vaishali's insights on career transformation, overcoming self-doubt, and embracing mindful transitions. Over to you, Vaishali.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. अभी फिल्मी कहानियाँ थोड़ी ख़त्म हो रही है और मैं आपके साथ कुछ डेटा शेयर करना चाहती हूँ. Is that okay? Yes. So it is said that 87% of ambitious and aspiring women seek growth. Today, I am here to tell you, stop seeking growth. Now I know some of you are going, has she lost it? No way. I am going to seek growth. And then there are some over there who are like, आज तक सोच भी नहीं रहे थे growth के बारे में, suddenly सोच रहे नहीं नहीं अभी तो हम growth ही सीख करेंगे. But then there are some probably going, sounds intriguing. Tell me more. And so all those with a show of hands who would like to know more, anyone? तो है कुछ. When I say stop seeking growth, allow me to tell you a story. This is a story of a young girl who, on a very, very cold winter in New York, was walking down the street. The Hudson River had frozen for the first time in 40 years. And as the chilly bay winds blew across her face, making her nose shine like the red-nosed reindeer, she happened to sprain her ankle. Now, anyone who's experienced पैर में मोच would know how difficult it is to walk with a sprain. But her ankle started to swell really bad, and she had to be taken to the doctor's clinic. When the doctor saw it, he gave complete bed rest, a lot of medication, and a big bandage around it. And he said, 3 hafte, you have to make sure you're going to be taking that rest. A week into that incident, she said, doctors don't know so much. I have a very important piece of work that needs to be taken care. The project deadlines are reaching, and I must get back to work. So with a bandage around her ankle, comfortable clothes, slippers, and a walking stick, she made past her way to her office. When her colleagues saw her, they were quite thrilled. And they said, how brave you are to come to work with such an injury. They got her tea and donuts. Days passed, the pampering continued. She continued to do great work. Her ankle continued to heal, but a little slower. But a month into that incident, a good friend and colleague said, are you still not keeping well? And the girl said, no, look, I'm perfectly fine. I don't limp anymore. And her friend said, that's not what is being said about you. People are saying you're not happy at work. They're saying your work's deliverables are impacted. And yesterday, someone said, you're going to quit. The girl was disappointed. She said, after everything that I've done, ignoring my health, this is what I get. She went home completely annoyed, angry, and more than that, confused. That girl was me. This was year 2002, place New York City, जिसको मैं आज तक घर नहीं कह पाई, क्योंकि Bombay is घर. But the injury left me with a lot of learning because it took me a decade to find the answer to what had really gone wrong. And the beauty was, when I found the answer, it changed everything for me. Because in that answer, I realized that that decade-long journey was not of seeking growth, but of seeking the problem that made my perception change so dramatically. But I also realized that I seem to love seeking out problems and solving them. And that's the reason a quote by Rumi resonates with me so much. Rumi, the mystic poet, once said, love is the most natural thing. Don't seek love. Seek out the barriers to your love. And once you solve and dissolve those barriers, love flows naturally. And I believe growth is just like love. It's the most natural thing to happen. Look at a plant. Even if you chop off a branch, it'll grow from the other side. Look at the river. When it flows, if it meets a boulder, it'll still find a way around it. So if growth is the most natural thing to happen in our lives, why are we seeking growth? Let's seek out the barriers, the boulders, and learn to dissolve them. In my work as a leadership coach, it takes me in front of a lot of very senior executives, CXOs. And this is exactly what we start to work on, is finding the barriers and dissolving them. अब बाहर के barriers तो बहुत easily दिखते हैं. सबसे favorite barrier manager होता है. Now when I say dissolve the manager, literally मत ले लेना. But जो अंदर के barriers होते हैं, that's where the beauty lies. So I encourage all of you to seek out your inner barriers and see if you can do something to work on them, to dissolve them, and allow growth to flow as naturally as love in your life. So today, this girl from the Hudson Bay who walked with a limp is going to try and tell you why barriers are going to be your biggest friends. So ये कुल्हाड़ी पे जाके पैर मारने वाली बात नहीं है, पर ये वो बात है कि जिसको हम avoid करते हैं generally, जरा जाके उसी को ढूंढिए and see if you can do something about it. Because when you find that answer, a lot of other things just happen magically. For me, when I found that answer a decade later, it opened doors and avenues that I didn't even know existed. If I am sitting here today, it's because of that problem that I solved a few years ago. Now with that, let me invite Swati and see if she has some questions for me.
A lot of questions, actually. So, could you break down the peak framework from your book, Scaling Peaks, especially the practical steps, to become more remarkable, memorable, and promotable, as you say?
Okay, Swati, you've read the book really well. Scaling Peaks is my first and latest book that got released earlier this year. And the reason I wrote that book is my work takes me again in front of a lot of people who are able to work on their careers, again, work on the growth that they love. But I thought, what of those people who are unable to work with me or unable where I can work with them? So is there a way for me to help them understand what does it mean to scale careers? I come from a banking tech background, 25 years in the industry with Citi and JP Morgan. And scaling peaks of careers was a natural element of my life, and I've been a mentor to a lot of people through that journey. And when I wrote Scaling Peaks, the idea was to say, could I share with you real stories of real people, just like you and me, that can help you understand what it means to scale the next peak of your career. And so those 9 untold truths are what makes the framework. The framework looks at 3 components, and Swati has very nicely called out the 3 components. It's being promotable, being memorable, and being remarkable. And when you look at the framework, it tells you a formula, which is called I scaled up. And I scaled up is the mantra for scaling the next peak in your career or life. The peak is yours to define. And if you look at the book, you'll find that the framework allows you to do a lot of introspection. So, ये एक fictional, non-fiction type of book है, because कहानियाँ हैं उसमें, and it gives you a framework with coaching questions that can make you reflect, that can make you go deep dive into who you are and what is it that you're trying to do.
Great. Could you share with us some real-life stories of transformation of leaders using the peak framework?
So literally every story in the book is the real story of the various clients. I can tell you one of the story जिसमें I see a lot of myself as well. So when you think of I scaled up, the D in the formula stands for developing your village. आप लोगों ने बहुत सुना होगा networking. सुना है किसी ने? Do networking, it's good for your career. Do networking, it's good for your business. काफी लोग यहाँ पे networking के लिए भी आए होंगे. Yes? In my early days of career, we were told networking, and because I come from a very tech background, my अगर आप 20 साल 25 साल पुरानी मेरी कोई फोटो देखेंगे तो you'll find a nerdy girl with her chashma, hair all tied up, sitting in front of a computer, least interested in talking to people or networking. For me, that was the barrier. And that's the barrier I continue to work on. One more of the reason why I'm here is to develop my village. And I'm very thankful to have found some wonderful people who are going to be part of my village today. But why do I call it developing village? It's because networking ko humne kafi transactional, kafi, there is a little bit of a,
Quid pro quo, they say. As they say.
yes. And I think some of us don't appreciate that value of networking because we find it a little deliberate, forced upon kind of thing. But developing your village is an idea that means go find your own people and bring them into your village and nurture them. And these could be people who can be your future mentors, your future sponsors. अगर आप कुछ किताब लिख रहे हो, तो I needed to find a set of people who would give me endorsement for my book. So publisher said, on the back cover, we need 5 endorsements. And you know, when you work with publishers, they throw these kind of googlies when you're least expecting. And I said, where do I get 5 endorsements? So he said, there will be people I'm sure you can find. So obviously I went into my village, and the typical rule of sales is if you reach out to about 20, 25 people, 5 might say yes. And so I reached out to 25 of my dearest villagers, thinking 5 log to haan hi bol denge. Pata chala, all 25 said yes. And so we sat with another problem, ki what do we put on the back cover? And then we created a new section in the book which said endorsements. So the idea of developing village, which is one of the I scaled up, ka D, is a real story from even my life because I dreaded networking. It was very uncomfortable, very unnatural for me. But when it comes to developing village, that's where the real fun happens because you start nurturing relations and they're no longer transactional.
That's great. So how can professionals recognize, early stages of career stagnancy? And does it take, how do they reinvent the purpose basically at mid-stage of their career?
बहुत ज़्यादा deep question है. Purpose वगैरह पता नहीं मुझे. I would just say when you look at the work that you're doing, if it fits into a couple of categories, which is if you love doing it, and if you see that is adding value to somebody or something, and then a third dimension, this is where the whole remarkable thing comes. So, कई बार ऐसा होता है कि you find yourself doing something that clicks really well with you. Meaning, you do it beautifully, you are very fast at doing it, you understand that so well, and you are absolutely in control of that particular space. So in other words, you're an expert in that area. And if that problem statement was kept in front of somebody else, others may take hours and hours to figure it out, but for you, it's a matter of a few minutes. And if you're able to find that combination where you become the expert, you love doing that, and it adds value to others, I think that is a space that I would say would probably give purpose after a point in time. But purpose ye काफी बड़ा word है. I wouldn't necessarily ask a 20, 25-year-old to start seeking purpose. I have always loved to seek experiences, and that has served me well. So if you are able to seek out experiences, different ones, difficult ones, and go after your blockers or your barriers, I would say that can be a lot more fulfilling and eventually purposeful.
Great. You must be interacting with a lot of leaders in your day-to-day work. So just wanted to understand, do you feel especially women leaders at the top are, very lonely? Does it?
I wouldn't say it is only the women leaders who are lonely. The nature of work at the CXO level sometimes makes it lonely. And gender, शायद मैं इसमें लाऊंगी नहीं, because there's nothing about gender here. The only thing I would, if there are women CXOs in the room or people managing their own businesses in the room, and yes, it is lonely because you start to do things जो आप शायद सबके साथ share नहीं कर सकते. That's why they say it's a pyramid, right? So at the top, there are very few people that you are able to share some of those challenges with. At the cost of pitching myself, yes, go look for a coach. But more importantly, I would say find that village of yours, find some people that are your own tribe. And if you get your tribe of other CXOs or other women or even men, that's a brilliant place to be in, because then you're able to be in touch with all these people, because you may have some day-to-day challenges that you want to seek out and talk. Kai baar, even in coaching, I don't give answers. So as a coach, that's not my job to give answers. My job is to help you explore your answers. But what we find is when you start talking about some of your problems, when you give voice to the clutter in your mind, sometimes it starts to solve on its own. So just having that confidence and having a confidant that you can talk to and give voice to the clutter in your mind may make a lot of things easier and make it less lonely.
Sure. So do you think emotional intelligence is an important trait while, climbing up the corporate ladder?
मैं no बोलूँ क्या?
What's your view on that, basically?
So the general party line is emotional intelligence is the most important thing, and yes, we should have it. I feel it's a given, because what is emotional intelligence? It is how you're able to understand and synthesize emotions of both yourself and others. And if as a human, forget leaders, if as a human you're not able to do it, then you are probably closer to animals. So I wouldn't necessarily say that emotional intelligence is only for leaders, and maybe I'm sounding very less diplomatic at this point, but emotional intelligence is one of the most basic things for humans to have, as it's a quality that helps us be better with each other as humans. Now the interesting thing, Swati, is we are in the space of AI and technology evolution, revolution, whichever way you look at it. And if technology a decade ago was only the job of the technologists, today with the kind of AI changes that are happening, I'm guessing everyone here uses AI in some way. Yeah? You could be a writer, a director, जो मेरे पहले आके गए हैं. You could be a banker like me, or a coach, or you could be a poet. Somewhere AI is going to be a part of your life. And so there was a very interesting article that I want to tell you about what AI means. It's no longer just a tool. AI is a digital species. And so now emotional intelligence is at another notch, because leaders have to work with two kinds of species. The human species, that is us, and the digital species, which is getting more and more intelligent than the human species. And so that's where your EI is going to make a remarkable difference, so that you're able to nurture yourself, your teams, make them less panicky about the situations that's happening. And that would be my take of saying, can EI now evolve to help us handle both the species?
Great, that was a beautiful take. So a combination of EI with AI is the future. I think, that was a wonderful conversation, Vaishali. I think we got a very close insight as to what, how you deal with CXOs and their, how they deal with these problems. I think beautiful insights, and I hope everyone reads the book, Scaling the Peak, and scale their careers after listening to such insightful conversation. Thank you, Vaishali.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure here at IMA. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, ma'am.